Lama tang wambu and jensen jambe yang la chan za do yin gang ge lo zhen zhen ye zhen da yin da nam da ra sa wei yin yan den gen ji shen zhen nian gen dong er le bang wan da xin be zhen ra ma yan men da dong ma yes Dong so la do jie da ya la do zhi yang so do da jia do nya mo nye lo le ge jiang zhou de ma re men se do ma nyu jian ye jiu zai ba shi dan men da jie zai jie da yan den le zong jia se do Zhe da zhen nian dian zhen da le men zhen jiang bie yang le zi never know what my my grandma says I know and then get a will sir again the river till more one bar of da den ju shang le dong ba ye lun den ba awan zan do so kan se do ren de ba cho se de ran de ya Long boy jam yan chen ye ne ge me ba dong boy shu on zain do se ba ra je de sem pem ve ma jem ma ni shu so so nam nyan ten den jan zan so gan de lam a nam la so wan wo jian sang ye ni be tun jie se de jian zhong dou jian song ko nan da sam ye nian de den zhe guan zhang ye ling be xiao le so wan Yang bai chen la de me nam ba dun de la se lan che yang se jiu ga bai den den ben ma dong a lin jiang yang jian zi so wan de an gan de lan che be ro nam ba zhen chen nan wei xin de lan so che le me den ze yan den jia zi xia Lord da ye shao ma so an de on men chun jie yan jie mo dang ye san san jie guan jie ngo ni yang sen chen gui wan san den ze ba sa wei la me xiao la so an de na mo ne da la la ge da la ne de zhe de on da la ne de Dragon generated about on jacket on the gentleman. Come on and prepare the Sinja Tam. Nanja Sanji Salanko Bracha, H to the guitar, ambitious and Yene, Nani, Chu Yamlin Chede, Ketatamje, Sanji Pabang, La, Kubertavich to chip, Indro the Yamin Chebo, some people on Chanjus in the south of the Anison Brashu.
So please listen with the precious motivation of precious bodhicitta, thinking that I will now listen to this teaching and put it into practice in this session here for the purpose of establishing all sentient beings, all and other sentient beings equal to an extent to space on the level of omniscient Buddhahood.
And
the teaching today is the preliminary practices to the Guru's hard practice, dispeller of all obstacles.
Under the name Jing Di Sum, Wonder the Janda, Tosala into Wonder like Yawaji, why you race, why you been Nane, Tadamanzo, Maba, Wonder you in the US.
So for the general topics for this teaching, there's 5 topics for the teaching. First of all, the meaning of the phrase preliminary practices, how the preliminary practices are important, the extensive, medium, and concise length preliminary practices, how the preliminary practices purify the obscurations and gather the accumulations, and the different types of preliminary practices. And so now we have finished the first 4, and now on the 5th, the different types of preliminary practices.
Tene ngondo yewa tela yang, tene jawa ngondo, tunji ngondo, ngoshi ngondo, song yebe nang le, tene nang rangzo, tene ngoshi ngondo nang le yores.
And as far as the different types of preliminary practices, there's 3 types: the preliminaries of the material items, the preliminaries to the meditation session, and the preliminaries to the main part. And we have finished the first 2, and now we're on the 3rd, the preliminaries to the main part.
Tene ngoshi ngondo tela yang, tene timon chi ngondo, timin nangi ngondo, tumi yebe nang le, tene rangzo, timon chi ngondo nang le yores. Timon chi ngondo tela yang, tene lodon namba shi, tajurni kawa, semi taupa, le junde, kore nimik shi yebe nang le, rangzo, tene kore nimik nang le yores shiga.
So, and within the preliminaries to the main part, there's 2 sections to this. There's the outer common preliminaries and the inner uncommon preliminaries. And we are going over the outer common preliminaries, which consist of the 4 thoughts that turn the mind from samsara. And these are the difficulty of obtaining the freedoms and advantages, death and impermanence, karma, cause and effect, and the faults of samsara. And so we finished the first 3 of those, and now we're on the 4th, which is the faults of samsara.
Tene kore nimik tela yang, kore dongal chiri sabma tang, chirao dogri dusose dongal samba ni yebe nang le, kore dongal chiri samba te shu sinde, tene taring ta kapsababa sheba shawati, rik dusose dongal samba tere. Ka rik dusose dongal samba tela, tene rik tugi nang la, nyalwa, tangwa nyalwa, niba ida, samba tundro, tene shiba, ni, tene waba, amin, tene chuba, fas, and true is. He took in now ne, and the taringomzo sure chavate, and in your is.
So within the topic of the faults of samsara, the suffering of samsara, there's 2 main sections: the contemplation of the suffering of samsara in general, and the contemplation of the individual sufferings of the 6 realms. And so now we're going over the contemplation of the individual suffering of this in the 6 realms. And so we have the 6 realms: the hell realm, the hungry ghost or preta realm, the animal realm, the human realm, the demigod realm, and the god realm. And now we're going over the hell realm.
So Doric took in now ne, tambo, Yalwa Sanayare, any near song to near tambo, Yalwa Sanayare, Tatabo Yalwa Tema, any Sanyan J, and Tomyal J, and Yekorwa, Yesewa, and Yakam Chopje. The Chopje Yobe now ne, any around to Kazan, Sanyan J down, Yagor Lama Churukia and shoes in the race.
So if we think about hell, we can think about it as hell, or as the first of the 3 lower realms. And within hell, the larger category of hell, we have the 18 hells, the 8 hot hells, the 8 cold hells, and then the neighboring hells and the minor hells. And we finished discussing the 8 hot hells and the neighboring hells and the minor hells. And now, so we haven't. So we've finished. We haven't finished the minor hells. We finished the hot hells and the neighboring hells, and now we're going over the cold hells.
Tena tene tuyores, tuye banane, tambote, tene chuburchin, nibate, chuburtolwa, sumbate, sotamba, shibate, achuchu, abate, kiwitimba, ani chubate, obaltarkeba, imbate, pematarkeba, yabate, pema chimbotarkeba, sinteda burka, yujuk, tinusungures.
Gedra, so there's 8 cold hells. First, the hell of blisters, then the hell of burst blisters, the hell of chattering teeth, the achuchu hell, the hell of saying kihu, and the hell of being split like an utbala flower, the hell of being split like a lotus flower, and the hell of being split like a great lotus flower. There's those 8. So it's very convenient when we're going over the cold hells to think about them in terms of 4 different aspects: the place, the bodies of the beings, the sufferings, and the lifespan.
장외margi chebarla tende tene 류주가강 나기르엔달라 소바기 동안 멘다와 남바 제뇽주레스 tende tanya 제스 샤송레스.
So to go into the location of the cold hells, the cold hells, they can't really be described as having different kinds of locations or different, types of things within the location of the different hells like we have in the hot hells. The location is not really different that way. There's just kind of one environment, a general environment of the cold hells. But on the other hand, due to the varying degree of the strength of the cold, there's different kinds of sufferings that go on. The different degrees of the cold has a different effects on the beings in the cold hells, depending on which cold hell they're in.
네는 마데 가르스나 단열긴네데라 네 멤바미나 김마우터큐르바 네 사시탐제 긍리담 차그룸 아니 타탐제네 긍리첨베 영속고로와 네 난관네 컴 부욕기 지바 아니 신도 사신노베 lung tangar gi kyo ba sin sung yores.
So the general environment in the cold hells is that it's a totally dark, it's a complete darkness, and it's of course extremely cold, and there's iron mountain range surrounding the cold hell realm, as well as snow mountains within the cold hell realm. And there's really extreme blizzards of snow, extreme snowstorms going on, and everything is covered with ice and snow in the entire place.
자 tanyak gi tene chanyal du du tang chung ba re sin sung yores. Ta chanyal gi de khande res na lü de do shipa. Mile shijir gi chawa yin sung yorwa do shipa. Lü do chak chu ba ta bo. Ani fu kwa sapa shasap thamba. Ani miktar rekcha sen mi se ba. Bi tin la rekcha tin shira sodu mare. Me ta chen du singwa mik sursumba. Ani 자단 가부 탐제 마르보나 서부 예바 아니 바부 된적 수부기 바부 된 성마파 싱데와 랑데바 이네 또아 고 첨보여바 이네 야라 된적 티네 bombo 임바나 티네 통동이바 이네 신도 직수로마 잡으시기 요래 송거를 된대
So as far as the bodies of the beings in the cold hells, it is taught that they are the same as the bodies of the beings in the hot hells. So as far as that goes, the bodies of the beings in both the hot hells and the cold hells, they are 4 times as large as a human body. And the color of the body is similar to cooked blood or boiled blood. Their flesh is extremely sensitive. Their body is extremely sensitive, so their skin is very thin, so that they can't really withstand any kind of contact. If they get touched by anything, it's very difficult for them to bear. And their eyes are the shape of a triangle. Their hair on the head and on the face and so on is red and yellow, and it's sticking up. The hair is sort of like kind of sticking up. And their stomachs are really large, very large, kind of like abdomen with a huge stomach. But their limbs, arms and legs, are very thick, but at the same time very short.
인데 다 타네 비된 당 니라와 비제니 네 지퍼레스
So in this way, the body of the beings in the cold hell is the same as the bodies of the beings in the hot hell.
다 통열기 동화 되나 지를 공 타오이드레스 자다기 동화 된자라 니 한보 아니 추브르첸기 동화 되나 니 자마르기 나르이 켄나 텐데 니 비독 냠네 니 샤담 빠베기 파르나 니 추사메 니 추브르 토도르 장미 박식 류라 베용아 대이 동안 용기 여바 테라 니 추브르진 라바레스.
So in general, the suffering that's experienced by the beings in the cold hell is the suffering of cold. They're tormented by the sufferings of cold. But then when we get into the individual realms, the first realm is the blistering hell, or the hell of blisters. And there, because the strength of the cold is so extreme, between the flesh and the skin of these beings, it's kind of this fluid will gather there and then come out as blisters all over their skin. So they're covered in innumerable blisters all over their skin, and they suffer intensely due to that condition.
이번 추구르들베 동아텔라 아니 대외장 가만히 니주르기 채워 송외 아니 대이쟁기 아니 추부르 되니 여봐 대달장 아니 판돌네 아니 차당 아니 추스르라서 마르작치 아니 마르송 대이 동안 용어 텔라 아니 추부르들베 동아스.
And then for the second cold hell realm, which is the hell of burst blisters, here the cold is twice as intense as in the hell of blisters, and because of that more intense cold, the blisters that had formed on the beings in the hell of blisters now burst open, and blood and pus and so on come out of those blisters, and they become kind of like open wounds on the beings there.
수바 아추추스를 드말테라 분에 대외장 가마르체외 차위 찐기 아니 20m 아니 소절외 대이 동안 용기에 바테나 아니 소탐바 나버.
And then for the third cold hell, which is the chattering hell of the chattering teeth. So here again, the cold is even more intense than the previous hell, and the beings there experiencing this very extreme, really extreme cold, because they can't bear the pain of that cold. Then they start to chatter their teeth. So this is why it's called the chattering teeth hell.
네 아추추든 베토마텔라 네 대외장 가마르체로 송외 네 겐키 아니 차오베기 드네 월 이 메나 진메체바 되니와 대이 동안 용어 텔라 되니 아추추스 샤바레스.
Yeah. So and then when we get to the Achuchu hell, here again the strength of the cold has increased even more, and due to that's even more extreme cold, the beings, because of that suffering they're experiencing from the cold, they start to wail and make these kind of sounds of pain from the cold. They will say "achuchu, achuchu" like that. So this is the achuchu cold hell.
네 기회 덴베 동아테 마바테 기회 덴베 동아테 네 대외장 가마르체도 송외 차오의 찐기 되네 깨기 나나 차오네 네 슈그링도 네 슈그링스나 되네 슈그점네파 게 테메토나에 슈그점네파 게지 다지 돼 기회 엔데게 기회 제베 셰베게 되네 셰베게 대이 동안 용기에 바텔라 되네 기회 덴베 동안을 쓰레스.
And then the fifth cold hell is called the hell of Tsering. So here, again, the cold is even more intense, and due to that even more intense cold, the beings lose their voice. They can't really speak, and they are they make this sound of like a distress, having lost their voice. They can't really even speak or use the natural strength of their voice anymore. So they kind of saying kihu, kihu, like that.
not TV about it. Changwei Jianqi Chang'agi Tini Gigin Jadin Mutenen Ungi Dutch term until it gives.
So actually what this refers to, this sound kihu, is when due to intense cold, we can't really use our voice, kind of lose our voice, right? And all we can do, instead of actually being able to speak normally or get a normal sound, we just only can make a sound with our breath. So this is what's referred to by kihu.
Ne Tufa Upaldar Keba Te Tumaltena Tene Hevejang Tene Changdu Songwe Ani Changwei Jianqi Tene Vigin Do Bagwa Benzo Tene Pa Wumbo Changme Tene Wumbo Chaba Tela Tene Shisaldu Keba Tela Shisaldu Kebe Tungal Nyoma Tela Tene Upaldar Kebas Yes.
And then the sixth, the cold hell, is called a split like an utpala flower. So here, because of the even more intense cold, the beings living there, they turn blue. Their skin turns blue, kind of a dark and blue color. And also their skin starts to crack in a pattern with the four kind of sections, like the flower petals of a flower.
Ne Dimba Tematar Keba Tela Tematar Kebe Tumatela Ne Lugumbo Changwei 대회장 다로 송외 자위 genji tene lu keba nangi tene shamarbo 태양 tene 제살도 kebe기 동안 영화 tela tene 빼마들 keba series.
And then in the next cold hell, this is called the hell of being split like a lotus. So here, because the cold is even more intense, the beings where their skin used to be blue, there's the where the being's skin used to be blue in the previous hell, now their skin is split open, and there's the kind of red flesh is exposed for these beings, and their skin will now start to split in a pattern with the 8 sections.
아니 개바 내마 침부터 개바 시베 동아텔라 이니 다 되기 남샤 마르보 태양 이니 마르나우도 송네 이니 장의 genji 이니 정책 주족담 이니 송주 손이담 장메바 르바당 르베낭기 깡기 바르도 개네 이니 코베 나오나 옆에 주마담제장 칠러튼 주마당 능도담제 칠러튼 태양 개베 개차르 제라 해낭라 테니 심부 짜기 추진 근데 망보 용네 이니 대담제 사월 제바당 평위 동안 연구 여바 대라 테니 베마 침보들 동아를 라베스.
So then the final cold hell is the hell of being split like a great lotus. So here, because the cold is even more intense, the flesh of these beings becomes now a dark red color. And that's a dark red flesh of these beings begins to split due to this intense cold, begins to split into 16 kind of a petal-like formation, 16 sections, 32 sections, and so on and so forth, into innumerable cracks and splits in their body. And their body will split even down into their bones, so that even the marrow of the bones is exposed, and their bones start to split in that way, with the marrow exposed. And their internal organs, like the intestines and so on, it will also start to come out and split open. And when that happens, after their kind of internal organs are exposed and splitting open, there's a certain type of animal there, which is the insect with the iron jaws, or iron say like iron jaws or iron fangs, iron beaks, and those insects will start to swarm around the beings and bite them, and start to eat their internal organs and bite into them with the iron jaw. And so this is the kind of suffering that's experienced in the hell of being split like a great lotus.
这时候啊，那个当嘛是把新的那件成功原那，跟成功给建起来，跟马上就是我的能够找不起个多，能够找不起个多，跟那嘛是成功修成不一样的，我不得开着个多，我不得开样那搞这个的，哪个下的是通过，哪个下的是通的，哪个下的是马不巧的个，今天成功修成不一样的，哪个下的是开着了，这个哪个下的是开样那，哪个下的是多的是的呢，马上巧着了，开呢。马那巧的就等着全部开用了，那个让着哪给他如果当刚等，等着说不开用了，全部开用了，那哪了又被给舅妈当老当，硬的是起了推用过了，起嘛开餐那个推用过了，等我可把嘛给那推用的了，开餐那推用过了，推用超越了，舅妈硬等着要长毛给开餐那搞的这个，但等着不加用过了，当然就下等着下双的不可能多，我的不等着就当的不嘛的，不舅妈买吧，不一样吧了，这价格数。价格说变动不，价格说呢，下定是如果是说价下个，我等着当了做的说价下个的事，他等着给长不当，等你稍微动了就是用个多，等用个就等个样子他的，不把它开把当，别嘛它开把当，别嘛全部都开把是被给动了，等着来不要。
So if we think about our own experience with ourselves, when we get cold, extremely cold, it does happen that our skin will turn blue, right? And then if it gets even worse, then that skin, our skin will start to split open. And once it starts to split open, the flesh inside is exposed, right? So there's the red exposed flesh. And then when that red exposed flesh splits even more, when it gets even deeper, it becomes dark red. This happens to us as humans. And then when that goes even deeper, because the flesh is already exposed, then of course the organs will start to, internal organs will be exposed and kind of come out, right? And all the way down to the bones. That can happen. Because this is what happens, right? When our flesh is like opened up in that way, totally exposed, that the inner part of the body will then begin to come out. And then after all of that flesh is exposed, the internal flesh is exposed, of course, then insects will come. Just the same way when we have meat out, right? Different insects will come to that meat and start to eat it and so on and so forth. So in the same way, this same thing happens here, except that here they're not the normal insects that eat the flesh of these beings. These are insects that have metal or iron fangs, iron teeth. So they will come and eat eat the flesh and the exposed internal organs of these hell beings, and this really intense pain when this happens for these beings. So we can see in this way all the different sufferings of the cold hells. And this is the kind of really terrifying suffering that the beings in the cold hells go through. So before I was saying that there's only a kind of single environment for the cold hells, unlike the hot hells where there's different environment. Right, I said that just a minute ago. So there's only one single environment, but it's due to the degree of the cold that the beings there will manifest differently in their body and their speech. Different things will happen to their body and their speech, right? So this is the way that works. No? So this is how the different cold hells also get their names, as due to the changes in the body and the speech based on the different degrees of cold. So, for example, the first two cold hells are the hell of blisters and the hell of burst blisters, right? So these names come from the changes to the beings' bodies there, right? Because this is what happens to our bodies, right? When we get blisters, it's a kind of bodily change that we will get blisters. So that's how these first two hells get their name: the hell of blisters and hell of burst blisters. Through the name is given because of the change in the body. And so as for the hell of chattering teeth and the achuchu hell and the hell of saying kihut or expressing kihut, these three, they get their name based on the change to the speech that happens to the beings here. Their speech changes. So when we get cold and we chatter our teeth and press our teeth together, chatter our teeth, this is a change in the speech, right? It's change in our speech is chattering teeth. And the same way, when we get too cold and have to say achu chu chu, achu chu chu, this is also a change to our speech. And similarly, when we make a sound just with our breath of the kihoot, when we just kind of have to only making this sound with our breath is also a change in the speech. So these three realms get their name based on the change to speech.
테러왕은 또 뭐서 청아를 숙칭부 시우지나 소 직도 타니 지도 어디 소 담바싱은 띠 디젤라 신장아 탐 비숙지만 리기도 신장아 매 리기도 언데 아치치 디젤라 아치치야 라마토 바친치 레다 키위스 어 근데 용기도 아티림바디 티림바디 가는 리기도 마음을 리기도 제상 땅 마음을 내 용데 틴데 티기 드라기 밍들 동알 따온데 티네 dal tini kirwe tunga alas ya kito.
So this happens to us all, doesn't we? We know about this from experience, that when we get extremely cold, we start to chatter our teeth, right? And Lama was demonstrating like we're chattering our teeth in that way. And then when we get even more cold, we will just uncontrollably start to say, like this kind of thing. We'll start to say that kind of thing. And then when the cold gets even worse, we are not even able to do that with our voice. So we just can only express ourselves through our breath, right? So all of those sufferings are expressed through the voice in that way. So this is why this is a suffering related to the voice is described in those three realms.
예, 오빠들 개바당, 빼마들 개바당, 때마 친구들 개바디 간에 중거든. 아마 생각나는 류니 중거도. 오빠들 개바된 건도 류 당고 시사도 기기도 와. 이 시사도 개사를 잘라더니 빼마들 개바디 난기 시험으로 된조야더니 개사도 기기도 와. 이 순주 소니 당 드니 주루라 소바. 다음에 발로 소바디 그렇게 농돌 나나로 여바기 남로 된조야더니 로바당 깡나 소바. 저야 첨이 같이 개두고도 어디 개바디 간에 가와니 정도 쓰는 류니 정도 와. 세상 오빠들 개바당, 빼마들 개바당, 빼마 친구들 개바디 류니 중부 여바선상 근데 류니 중부에 get니 정렬 기인 따송.
And then as far as the hell of being split like a lotus and being split like a great lotus and being split like first is being split like an utpalak flower, then being split like a lotus and being split like a great lotus. These all have to do with the sufferings of the body. The names are given because based on the sufferings experienced in these beings' bodies. So here, the skin is first splits into four. It splits in patterns of four sections, and then it becomes red. It becomes split open so that you can see the red flesh inside, and then it splits into patterns of 8 sections. And that flesh becomes dark red and then splits into 16 and 32 sections into innumerable splits all over the body, where the insides of the body start to be exposed, like at the bones and at the marrow, even of the bones, and the internal organs are exposed in that way because they'll split. So these beings, they experience this kind of suffering in the body. And so it's due to That's the kind of bodily suffering that the names are given to these last three cold hell realms as well.
네, 아직은 먼저 공라 추버진다 추버디 리에도 아니 제가 오벌터 개바당 페마터 개바당 페마 첨부터 개바디한 리에도 리에 때는 주고도 이디 리에 때는 아니 마탐버 중소아 아니 다이 공라디 소탐바들 소탐바당 아추추다 기회된바딩 나는 중소아 안나 루이네 중앙 나당 나는 중앙 성지디 아니 통렬게 참도.
So the first two hells, the hell of blisters, the hell of split blisters, the names are given according to the suffering of the body, right? Because there's blisters and the split blisters. And so we have those two. And then similarly, they hell is being split like an utpala flower, and the hell of being split like a lotus, and the hell of being split like a great lotus. Those last three, they're also related to the sufferings of the body, right? Those being split and the body being split in that way. So we have the first two plus the last three makes a 5 cold hells that are described in terms of the bodily suffering. And then the 3 hells of shattering teeth, of the Atruchu hell, and the hell of saying Kihut. Those 3 all have to do with the sufferings of speech. The name is given based on the suffering of speech. So you take those 3 and add them to the 5 whose names are given based on the suffering of body, and you have the 8 cold hells.
너인디 니 겐디 참ar 신도 통we 나디 겐체 테니 자와디 루이다 마니기체 테니 대부 동알디 단다테니 단다 아란저 장날 제기 동알디 용기도 와.
So in this way, the condition or the secondary cause is the extreme cold that it's experienced in these hell realms. And due to that condition, the beings within the hell realms then have different actions, such as with their speech in their body. Something happens with their speech in their body. And then taking that together, we have the result, which is the suffering experienced in the cold hells.
네, 다 숨바 체체들도 와. 당연히 체디 테니 근데 송여래서나 이게 일장난 로자신 딜직 총어 세조나 추버친 체인데 신지 chen 위시 교부 송여래 이네 당연히 체디 이네 찍 요리 이슈기 채와 그거요래.
So now to get to the third topic, which is the lifespan, there's a verse which is taught which says, if you take a cart's load, a full cart load of seeds, sesame seeds, the children, if you take the whole cartload of whole cartload full of sesame seeds, and you take one sesame seed out every 100 years, when all of those sesame seeds in the entire cartload that you're taking one out every 100 years, when all of those sesame seeds are finished, after taking them all out, then that is the lifespan of the beings in the hell of blisters. And then the rest of the hells they increase by being 20 times as long as the previous, right? So each one is 20 times the life's 20 times as long as the one before.
하디 tilshong de zisul de kandare sena ni yaharla nje ko sona shiba yuji yubare te yul de na tini chise tadagi pesi yubare ni pedi tini chu cheba nishu na tini shomba chik yujang chik pes yubare.
So as far as how this measurement is made, there's a place in India which is called Koshala. And in that place, this ancient place of India called Koshala, they had a measure, which is kind of like a cup, although it's bigger than like a modern cup. It's like a cup kind of measure they used to use to measure things like grain and so on. So if you take 10 of those cups measures, and then that's another unit of measure, which is like a 10-cup measure. And then if you take 20 of those 10-cup measures, then that is one cart load, one full cart.
Hati tilki shomba kambo te teni barimba zobe tab cheong te tab te la milo gya na teni til re ma ten yores. Milo gya na til re tong ne til tsama zok tsawa ina teni chubur jinji tse te tiga tsam yin sung res.
So if we have one cartload, as in the way that was just described, that one measure of one cartload full of sesame seeds, and we are going to like empty that entire cartload of sesame seeds. But the way that we empty the cartload of sesame seeds is every 100 years for us, in our human world, every 100 human years, we take out one seed from the cartload. And so after doing that, taking out one seed just every 100 years, when finally that cartload is emptied, that is the lifespan. Then that will be the same time that it would take for one lifespan in the hell of blisters. That's how long they would live.
Ta chubur jinji tse te shomba chik yin songwa ina teni changyal shimba tenzo teni gyur nishu ki chewa yores.
So if the hell of blisters has a lifespan of emptying one cartload in that way, then the rest of the cold hells are 20 times as long as that, increasing each time by 20 times.
이제 gyur nishu ki tsi yongde chubur dolwa la teni tilshong nishu re. So tamba la teni tilshong shikya re. Teni achu chu la tilshong yidong re. Teni kiwi demba la tilshong bung chik tang chitru re. Teni upal tar kheba la tilshong saya chak sum tang bung yi re. Teni pema tar kheba la tilshong chewa chak chuk tang saya shi re. Teni pema chilpa tar kheba la teni tilshong terpung bung chak chik tang teni tungchur chak ni tang ane chewa ge re. Ta tsi gyab ti tigre da wale go re.
So this being the case, since we're multiplying for each of the worst hells, so to speak, we're multiplying by 20 each time for the lifespan. The lifespan as it gets 20 times longer each time. So for the hell of blisters, the lifespan is the same amount of time it would take to empty one cartload of sesame seeds in that way, right, every 100 years. And then the next one, the hell of burst blisters, their life is the same length of time it would take to empty 20 cartloads of sesame seeds. And then the hell of chattering teeth is the same time that it would take to empty 400 cartloads. And the achuchu hell It's lasts as long as emptying 8,000 cartloads. And the hell of Tsering, it lasts as long as 160,000 cartloads. And the hell of split like an Drupla flower lasts as long as 3,200,000 cartloads. And the hell of split like a lotus lasts as long as 64 million cartloads. And the hell of being split like a great lotus lasts as long as 1,280,000,000 cartloads.
那其实안에 지체되 되는 신을 내장 해마래 산열장 점량이 dur성화했나 전열도 펴는 거예요.
So we can see in this way that the lifespan in the cold hills is extremely long. It's just incredibly long. And if you compare the lifespan in the hot hills to the cold hills, in fact, the lifespan in the cold hills is longer than in the hot hills.
대해이제디에티니 점ner지 동마디 시선들에 가 대월라 티니까 니세웨 동날레고요래 니세웨 동날 선발한데고요래.
So now we've finished going over the suffering in the cold hells, and now after that we now go through the suffering of the minor hells.
니세와 셰바데티니 용알 똑섬 충원나 니세와 라프레스.
So the reason why these are called minor hells is because the suffering is a little bit less. It's a little bit less than the other hells, so it's called the minor hells.
이 동학독섬 충화래 새로와 태양 이 천열당 여러 천열당 정열당 이 약걸 항마 주룩라 때바 이나 테니 예세와 대독섬 동할 충화래 새로와 마도 테니 태양원에 돌아 테니 동할 충화인 되마레스 예세와 여러 코로나양테 동할 삼지 미쳐 만나러 같은 요레스.
So these are called the minor hells because they have slightly less suffering. But it's only that they have less suffering if we compare them to the suffering in the hot hells and the cold hells and the neighboring hells. Compared to that, there's less suffering, but in actuality, it's not that they have a small amount of suffering in reality. It's only compared to those hells. They really experience really incredible suffering.
탄예세냐로 테나 테니 네니메레 류장니메레 아니 체세장니메레 동아장니메레 아니 체세양니메레.
So in the minor hells, the location is not really fixed. The bodies of the beings are not fixed either, nor is the suffering, and also the lifespan of the beings is not fixed.
저녁에 니네디 니메레 니 니메 간다스네레스나 니세웨 니네디 니메레 니메인베 간다레스나 니 장렬웨 니에데 니 자초당 자초기 담양 요초고레 사옥당 요초고 사땡장 요초고레 아니 강리라 요초고레 하리라 요초고 탕라 요초고 리라 요초고 추라 요초고 메라 요초고 신라 요초고레 아나라 요초고 네 거에살랑 요초고 네네네.
So the location of the minor hells is not fixed. What does that mean? It means that the minor hells can be located in the oceans. They can be located on the dry land. They can be located in the fields. They can be located in the forest. They can be located in the mountains. They can be located in other kinds of water, bodies of water, and they can be located in the space, and they can be located in the trees, and so on and so forth. They can be located almost anywhere.
류장 tene ngame na choba yore tene 류 카시니 나오이 류야 yore 수르노스 남겐 류야 류 카시니 미나와 첸데 네 오보기 강라 네베 네여바 된다야 yore 땡이 메르스.
So as far as how their bodies are not fixed, they can have these beings in the minor hells. They can have bodies that have their own form. They appear in a certain form, or sometimes in the minor hells also they won't have a body that appears in any form at all. In that case, they may be kind of joined to objects, so they don't have their own body.
tene 동아장 예메레 타기 파두 자르와 너희 남도 툼바 차름지 남도 랭바 취 남도 쇠바 메이 남도 색바 시양 동을 나 초본에 소관 명리요레스.
So as far as how the suffering of these hells is not fixed, sometimes these beings may experience being crushed between cliffs or big boulders, that kind of thing, or crushed under boulders. They can experience being like ground by stones. They can be frozen within ice, and they can be boiled in water and burned by fire, and many other ways that they may suffer.
텐전에 리나오를 통할까 같은 일에스 한 류미나오에 통할 텐저 그리어스나 테닝랑저 행동에서 그 류미나와인데 그 뭐보기 강나 행동에 강나 테네 코네 행동에 강나 코네 용데 테네 행동의 연락도 제 용데 테네 거기 연락 제바 나신이 서로와들 리용. Yes.
So that's how the beings in the minor hells who have their own like a bodily form that appears in a certain form, that's how they would suffer. As for those beings that don't have their own bodily form, they are kind of identified with an object. They kind of are like merged with an object. For example, like they may be merged with a tree, or piece of wood. And so that kind of case, for those beings, when that tree is cut, when the branches of the tree are cut, or the different parts of the wood are cut, those beings will experience that as if their own limbs are being cut off.
제가 말씀게 되네 등공다 합창다 고다 기공다 탁바라 소바 나랑 저기 남주이니 가서 그래 잘라 부재치에 공부 망고도 되게 땡라 되게 혼자기 행오브 된자라 코란기 속인 삼백이 두셔요. 근데 나랑 저기 부재 땅용도 되네 콜라 강ገል이요. 되는데 콜라 동안 예매 익스페리언스
So also, these beings may be merged, so to speak, with, for example, mortar and pestle, or with the doors, stoves, ropes, and different kind of tools that we use in our life. We have all these kind of things we use in that kind of way, physically. So for these beings, they identify with those kind of objects, and then when we use those objects, those beings that are identified with those objects, they experience suffering. Whenever we use this kind of object, it gives them a lot of suffering.
Shayang, in Yitsuvinya Watendo, Tini, Tsena Dewa Yuna, Nina Midewa, Nila Dewa Yuna, Tsena Midewa, Hendela Sobekitini, Yitsuvinya Every.
And also another kind of thing that will happen in the minor hells is that some will experience happiness during the day and then suffering during the night. Or it can be the opposite, that they experience suffering during the day and happiness during the nighttime. This is also what may happen in the minor hells.
Chende Yoba Tiang, and Logishi Yore, Habakadayana in Sayu, Habakadayana Shupsati Lumbatena, Tinimiji Sequel. Tam Midi, Tinako Shembares, Midi, Mutawa, Kosokcheti Gore. Inayang Ko Tini Tsena, Tiniko Sokchigi means, Habakadayana Kundira Tinko, Tamja Lembare. And then Lindy, Tiniko, December Latene, Gewa Yeba Indi, Ko Shitsardi, Tini, ko di Nila, Nyalona Ke, Sena, Tini Idala Kidu, Indigi, Jebi Lugi in the Yore, Tindi, Yitsu Yawara Jeresegura, Yitsu Yawar Yand, Yitsu Yawala, and Nimeridua.
So there's a story about this kind of minor hell where the monk Katyayana, the Mahakatyayana, the great Katyayana, he's involved in a story, and there was a butcher who, because of his job, he's killing animals all day long, every day. And this butcher, he decided to take a vow from Katyayana, from the monk Katyayana, that he would not kill any being during the nighttime. So because he took that vow, there's a lot of virtue in that vow. So as a result of that situation where he was a butcher during the daytime and then he had a vow not to kill during the nighttime, he was born in a minor hell. And in that minor hell, he experienced the kind of hellish hell realm during the day. And he experienced a kind of hungry ghost, preta realm during the nighttime.
And Yitsevita, Tsering, Evachonium, Twingiman, Chitugris.
And in addition, there's no fixed lifespan in the minor hells. There's no like a certain amount of time that beings will live in the minor hells.
Hatin Jedi, the name announced Nyalwana, Sanyanke, Tonyanke, Yakorlama Chutu, Yisewe Tungala Soba Yongzopni, Shiva Yins, Durpiva Samch.
So now, up to now, I've now finished explaining the 8 hot hell realms, the 8 cold hell realms, the neighboring hell, and the minor hells. I've now explained those in a brief way.
Tanto Rig to be Nani, Nanipa, Niesongi, Nanipa, Idaki, Sampares.
So now, to get to the second out of the 6 realms, or we can also think about this as the second out of the 3 lower realms, the realm of the hungry ghosts, or the pretas.
Ida Shivati, Hita do 7 Yila, something Shila Ida Labres.
So generally what we call a preta is, it refers to these beings that are constantly tormented by hunger and thirst, and constantly have this in their mind, this extreme hunger and thirst.
Ida Dela, Tini, Chinglan Nebi, Tang, Kalachui, Dani, Seniores, and Seniores.
So as far as the pretas go, there's the 2 types: the pretas that dwell in the depths, and the pretas that move through space.
자 칭란네베 이다 람나 한 세르와데스나 이다 쿠랑기 사자나 네바텔라 칭란네바 라브레스 hala juasana kare labrasana ita khashe kene purniya drogi yore purniya drogi yode tene tela khala kyo asila bares.
So the pretas that live in the depths, these are pretas that they live in their own place. They have one place where they're living. So they're called the pretas that live in the depths. And the pretas that move through space, these are beings that actually fly around in space.
Teta bu ida temayang teni ne du dongal chesela tene drona ten tapke yores.
So to learn about this kind of pretas, it's convenient if we learn about them in terms of the four aspects of the location, their bodies, their suffering, and their lifespan.
Ta ida gine de ani khande yoresena ni sashi thala chupe chetang dang do se thavrit nam do singwa dongdum me cheba ani dugi chermala soba yeba ni chukam ba thamba cha thoke ni yarni dawayam chasing wingni nimayam thangwa yores.
So as far as the locations where these pretas live, they may live in a place with a hot sand or with a sharp rocky place, or they may live with the richak kind of in the
Thavrit nam do singwa le nom tinde nam no passing nam
and so and they may live in a place with the mountains, where the mountain peaks reach the sky.
thagiri da thag to dogiri
So,
sairi marda.
so these are like rocky mountains. So they may live in a place where there's rocky mountains whose peaks reach up into the top of the sky, way up into the sky. And they may live in a place like a desert where there's no water. And they may live also in their environment. The sun may be actually cold. The sun will actually cool them down, and the moon makes them hot.
Tinde saje tingwane ngana zo isa saje na yinata ne chapo ye do zimide.
And isn't it the case that when we think about this kind of place, we should actually be afraid of it? It's actually quite frightening.
Saje thala chupe lang do bache.
For example, they also live in a place where they may live where there's dust, like dust storms constantly blowing.
Tene saje sama chetang chema kitang tene dosek do ragaron mumbu yosa.
Or they may live, and their location also has deserts, living in the desert, or kind of a place full of sharp rocks.
Tene dogiri tsenyon dine mongbo dorerim dine mong wedding bukenbo wembo tinde yena.
And or they will have rocky mountains, like very narrow rocky mountains that are really sharp and pointy and reaching up to the tops of the sky.
Saje tenzola tene shin tsigyo nakbo tinde tuachure yobache.
And there's like burnt trees that are growing everywhere, really tall burnt trees.
Tene cherme dongbo shingdong mongbo yobache.
And also thorny bushes everywhere.
Tene chumi kya thoya meba kambo kamjang tinde.
And there's absolutely no water in this place either. We can't even find anywhere it's totally dry.
Tini yarge tisu inaya tini dawa yang thamu shita kunge tisu ina nima yang masa chau tindre yana kibu yang sare tindre sazala.
And in the summer, the sun is actually makes it really cold, and in the winter, the moon makes you really hot. Would you actually enjoy living in that kind of place?
Chetam kichikbar yarge sazala ina mone patadi sinang chawre anti chanyal ge saza tinzala tanayam sinang chawre tini tega na shingi ta nang yidagi yulna tanayam sinang chawra.
So it's the same for all these realms. Like when we think of the location, the place, what the place is like in the hot hells, it's really frightening, terrifying. And we think of what the place is like in the cold hell is also really terrifying. And similarly, what the place is like in the preta realms, also really terrifying.
Idagi lüdine chambo yores lupe musi chambo.
And as far as the bodies of the pretas, their bodies are extremely large.
Sobotine mi gabogi subu. Lugepa.
Lugeba.
Gabogi subu. Mi gena subu kande.
And their body is extremely large, and also like their body is like a really old person. And their hair is kind of really wild and sticking out everywhere. And their head is really huge, like a kind of really huge pot. There's a certain kind of pot. Like yeah, it's in the public. Oh, that's and the mouth is really big as well, a huge head and a big mouth, and the nose is flat, like the very flat nose. And their eyes as well, the predator's eyes as well. It's said that their eyes are kind of popping out of their head. And the kind of inside of their throat, or the mouth leading down to the throat, is said to be as narrow as a pin, like a pin that we use to sew things. It's incredibly narrow. So yes, the mouth, inside of the mouth is like as narrow as a pin, and then when we get down into the throat, that's as narrow as a horse hair. Just one single hair, how narrow that is. And their stomach is said to be as large as a whole kind of country, like a small, like a region of the earth. It's really huge, like a whole region of a country. And their limbs are similar shape to the kind of a straw that we use for brooms, right? For sweeping, there's the pieces of straw, yeah? So those are, their limbs are the same size as those pieces of straw. So, and the way that their like a body is formed is that there's no flesh between the skin and the bone. And their bones are like the bones of a really elderly person, and their body is also like this. That there's no flesh between the bone and the skin, so there's basically like the bones are just wrapped in directly in the skin.
네, 조금 요왕이 되는 그 수부대 말해서 달리 갑이요 말해서 하부야 축부야 또니.
And because they're always hungry and thirsty, they never are able to relax and kind of be at ease and be happy. They're always kind of tormented by this hunger and thirst and going here and there, always driven on by that suffering of hunger and thirst.
네, 위디 신도 고보 정화 신송래 신다 된소파 로용디 네. 쉽게 말하면 때문에 저도 신다 된 정도 야하면 저도 동사 신다 정도 신다 스펙 기저보다 코드로디 되도 기저비래서 그래. 강라도 차도 여러 네 소고도 성업 뺏겨 여러 더 뺏겨 또 드론인데 뺏 오더 첨부 쉬우지 그래서 그래.
And it's also said that when they move around, they make a sound like a chariot. So there's like in the old times when they had chariots, like in India and so on, they would make a sound when they are driven. There's a kind of like sound of the wood from the chariot when it's going up. So it said that these pretas, they make the same kind of sound when they move around because their body is just like bones, skin and bones, and it's really weak. And they have to carry around this huge belly. So when they go around, it said that they make this type of sound like a chariot.
다 진짜 이런 부 조이가 된 로직선의 측측 빠르네 봐. 얘는 매발이 온 거였어. 도와툴 매발.
And also when they move around, their joints, from within their joints, there starts to burn. There's like a fire that comes out of their joints and there's smoke coming out.
보기 솔직히 뭐 저라 대참만에 매차 도와차 그래서 그렇다 이 다성에 조용데 없어.
So we have so many joints, right? So in the same way, they also have like a smoke and fire coming out of all of their joints when they move their bodies.
다 이다기 리덴디 아니 디시오레스 다 다른 게 드니 최든지 상태들에 저거도 정맥 뭐만 잡지도 소나스.
So this is how the bodies of the pretas are. So now we finish for today. So let's all recite the dedication aspiration together.
Sonam etamste zabani taurine nyebe Sonam ante tengana sembalan kaubai sive tolendo anto retero inenta 참만의 휴지지가 괜찮은 많은 저 코레이님의 공백 카페에 네 코레이님의 님이 돼서 원익스는捐이요 네바이요 봐 괜히 알지요 봐질라 괜히 삼로 담고요 아니 대 통을 제발라 먼저 동화 동구에 재상 왜 동화에서 쉐바래 너 그래 동화들은 삼로티 스타네 네 다운 some similar to my devoting the talks lips on the question lebres 네 텔레 다르되기 셈발렘나 트닝 예정 lebres 재상은 그린이 메로 도스냐면 저만 가든치 지금 자연스
So I want to tell you all something a little extra now. We are now going over the faults of samsara. The title is called The Faults of Samsara. So what that refers to, or the fault refers to, is the harm and the kind of problems, the difficulties within samsara. So this is what we really have to come to understand, is that that samsara has this kind of fault, has these kind of harms and difficulties and or problems. And the way to understand, come to that understanding of these harms and difficulties is to contemplate the sufferings of samsara. And when we contemplate the sufferings of samsara and then understand the harms and the difficulties involved, then we will get a little bit sad and kind of we will have a little bit of kind of like a distress, a sadness about that. And that is where our weariness with samsara will come from, is when we meditate on suffering samsara and we get a little bit distressed about it and sad at this situation. We will get weariness. And then from that weariness, we will have the desire and the intention to free ourselves from samsara, free ourselves from this suffering. And that is then renunciation. So please keep this in mind. And thank you very much.